Hey y'all, Kenny here. Thanks for joining me. Today I want to show you a setup that I use to test bullet performance. It's a simple setup, doesn't cost any cash much, and I found it to be a pretty reliable predictor of how a bullet will perform on game. I used this last year to test the 240 grain XTP bullet in my 44 Magnum, but today I want to do a standalone video because I think there's value here for the reloader, the person who may want to compare two bullets, or just for the person who shoots factory ammunition but would like to know how the bullet's going to perform before they carry it to the woods. So this is my test media. I have 4 jugs filled with sand. I have 2 jugs filled with wet rags. Now I've dried the sand in these first 2 jugs just by pouring it out on a tarp in the shop, letting it dry. It compacts less and I get a better test result. The 2 jugs filled with rags are to slow that bullet down before it hits this sand. If you shoot directly into the sand in these jugs, it's like shooting into a brick wall. So with a pistol cartridge, whether it's in a rifle or a pistol, you can get by with 1 jug filled with rags. I've tested the 30-30 with 1 jug of rags and it worked pretty well. But if you step up to those velocities that are approaching 3,000 feet per second, you won't get a very accurate test. So you could use your imagination when it comes to containers for the rags and sand. You could use a couple 5-gallon buckets, even cardboard boxes. They're not very durable, but they would work. A lot of people have asked me why not just use jugs filled with water for the test, and that does work pretty well for pistol cartridges. But for high velocity rifle rounds, you'll get a lot of failed bullets that otherwise would perform well on game. The other reason being that you destroy a lot of jugs every time you do a test, so you have to have a good supply of distilled water or old milk jugs. Anytime I do this test, I establish a baseline with a proven bullet. In the 44 Magnum video, I used the 150 grain core-lokt bullet from Remington. In my 30-30 Winchester. Today I'm using that same bullet in 30-06 Springfield. There's nothing fancy about this bullet. The BC is not good. It's not a screaming demon, but if you're a hunter, this thing is money in the bank if you use it within its effective range. I got my testing in yesterday before the rain came, and I thought I had plenty of 150 grain core-lokts for my 30-06, but I had 3 misfires. Go figure. So I was down to 1 bullet. I decided to move my target up to 50 yards because my rifle was zeroed for the 180 grain SST and I didn't want to blow the test. There's point of impact. There's the exit on the first jug. I can patch that up with a little duct tape eventually if I need to. There's the entry hole on the 2nd jug of rags and the exit. I've already been doing some tests with this jug. Let's get down here and find the bullet. There we go. A little tough to find, but that is the 150 grain Remington core-lokt at 50 yards. This is the core-lokt after I cleaned it up. It measures 550 thousandths, so the expansion is good. It weighs 110 grains. That's about 75% weight retention. I would like for that number to be a little higher, but I watched a gel test of this same round on YouTube yesterday, and the average weight of those bullets was 135 grains at 100 yards. We're testing with a little higher velocity at 50 yards. You have to take into account the abrasiveness of the sand on this bullet. So I think we have a bullet that's pretty good baseline. This is definitely not a failed bullet. One disadvantage of this test is that you can't measure bullet penetration as you can with ballistic gel, but I've never really felt the need to do that. You can do it mathematically. If you go online, there are plenty of free ballistic calculators. You just punch in your bullet diameter and weight, the BC of the bullet and muzzle velocity, and it'll generate a chart for you. There's a long-standing rule that says to take deer-sized game cleanly, you need 1,000 foot-pounds of energy. For elk-sized game, you need 1,500 foot-pounds of energy. So if you'll look on that chart, you'll see what those distances are. With this bullet, it is just under 300 yards for an elk and 450 yards for a deer. If you stay within that range with this bullet and place your shots well, I don't think you have any problem with bullet penetration. I set all this up to test 2 bullets in my contender in 35 Remington, but I thought while I had everything out, I would test this Barnesttsx TTSX bullet in my 308. This is a 130 grain bullet. These things pass through a deer like persimmon seeds through a possum, so out of curiosity, I just want to see what they look like. Okay, of course we went through both jugs. But, again, the sand stopped that TTSX, so that's pretty amazing. I didn't expect it. I thought I would get into another jug maybe. See if we can find it. There it is. The TTSX from Barnes. There's the Barnes bullet after I cleaned it up. Expansion's about the same as the core-lokt at 560 thousandths. Weight retention, as expected, is outstanding at about 90%. Now, I was a little surprised about penetration considering how these perform on deer, but I should not have been. This is a light bullet, and light bullets lose their inertia quickly. That's why I like bullets that are heavy for caliber. I'm using this bullet on Barnes' recommendation for a flatter trajectory. It is killer on deer. Next, I tested the 200 grain Sierra round nose 35 Remington bullet in my contender. It has a 16-inch barrel. The muzzle velocity is 2,050 feet per second. I moved the target back to 100 yards for this test. So that shot was a little left and high. Shouldn't be too hard to find the bullet because I see the indention it made in the jug. And there it is, 200 grain Sierra round nose, 35 Remington. This is the 200 grain Sierra round nose bullet. As you can see, expansion was not an issue. This bullet weighs 182 grains, so weight retention was excellent as well. Next, I want to test the Hornady FTX. This also is a 200 grain bullet. It is also traveling 2,050 feet per second. There's my shot, dead center, about an inch high. That's where I had the pistol zeroed. I pulled that first shot. That contender is a tack driver for a handgun, guys. So, there's the entry hole on the first jug. And the bullet almost made it through the first jug. That's the first bullet that we've had do that. But it stopped. Didn't quite get through. Shouldn't be too hard to find. Well, it's separated. That is the Hornady FTX. See if I can find the jacket. Well, it held up pretty good, didn't it? There's the base of the jacket. There's the recovered bullet, and I recovered it in 2 pieces, but surprisingly, this bullet still weighs 192 grains, which is really good weight retention. I'm not going to try to measure this oblong thing. It tumbled when it hit the rags. I'm assuming it hit the sand sideways, that's why it's so deformed, but this would be a deadly bullet. You saw the penetration I got from that. Again, heavy bullets will out-penetrate light bullets as a general rule. The next bullet I tested just for fun was the 55 grain full metal jacket bullet from Hornady in my AR-15. Here's that clip. I held up a little bit because I had factory ammo. I'm not zeroed for that. There's where it went in. Oh wow, looks like it tumbled. Now I've read and been told that full metal jacket bullets are designed to tumble when they hit their target, but as I understand it, they're not designed to tumble. They are just prone to tumble by their design. With the solid tip, when they hit something, they deflect and they get off balance and they tumble through the target. And so you see that's exactly what this bullet did. It impacted the sand sideways. You can see the prints. The other side is still shiny. So you hear people who say if you shoot a coyote with a full metal jacket bullet, it just pencils through. Then I hear other people say they've shot a deer, and I've actually seen pictures, and it just made a mess because it did tumble. So I guess we'll be arguing about that till the end of time. I have a variety of bullets in various calibers that I want to load and test. As time permits, I'll do that and post the videos. If you found this video informative, a like will go a long way in promoting it. If you're a current subscriber, thank you. I do value you. If you haven't yet subscribed, now's a good time to do that. And thanks again for watching.